What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to another positional rundown going through the top 10 edge rushers in the 2020 NFL Draft. Quick reminder, please do hit that like button down below to support this channel, support my content. Also, if you like my draft content and you want access to the full TFG Draft Insider package with not just the top 10 players at every position, but full profiles on over 600 players in this class, my full draft board, exclusive film breakdowns, and now exclusive 7-round team-specific mock drafts. All that stuff is up on Patreon, patreon.com/ThatFranchiseGuy. Make sure you go check it out. So let's hop into the top 10 edge rushers in this class. It's a little bit of an underwhelming class. It's a little harder to get excited about a lot of these guys, for me at least, after the number one guy, who is, of course, Chase Young. There's not much to really say about Chase Young. He's got a remarkably high floor, just a truly gifted athlete. His get-off is some of the best get-off I've ever seen from a collegiate prospect. I will say, I actually liked Nick Bosa better last year because I thought he was further along in his craft, just his ability to set up counter moves. But that's, I'm not trying to diss Chase Young. I have him as a top 3 player in this class. Might just come away with the highest grade. I think he very safely will come away with the highest grade of any player in this class. So I think very highly of him. I compare him sort of to, I like to use a high-low comp on him. My low comp, like the worst case, is he's Jadeveon Clowney, who's an excellent run defender, like a top 5 edge run defender, and a top 20, top 25 pass rusher. I don't think super highly of Jadeveon Clowney, but if you're drafting a guy and that's his floor, that's pretty damn nice. Now, the upside is like Myles Garrett, who is just a way better pass rusher than Jadeveon Clowney. And to be honest, Myles Garrett, when he entered the league, had some ups and downs. It wasn't overly consistent to the point that he's at, well, let's just ignore the whole Mason Rudolph fiasco, but at this point in his career. So I do think very highly of Chase Young. I just think he needs to continue to grow. And, he wasn't even as dominant in run defense as he can be at the next level. I think, I don't want to say he took plays off, but I think he just didn't play with all of the discipline and, didn't always show the sheds and pursuit in run defense on that elite basis, but is still one of the best run defenders already coming out of college. So I really like Chase Young. He's got that length, ability to just physically dominate any tackle prospect he goes up against. He can even kick inside from rush from the inside if you ask him to do that. I gave him a 99 potential grade. I don't remember when I've done that. I just figured if I don't give Chase Young a 99 potential grade, who the hell is going to get it? Because this guy is just a specimen. Then my number 2 edge, and some people actually list him as an interior guy. I strongly disagree with that. I think Epenesa here out of Iowa is an edge player first. Now, I understand it. He will play a lot of 4-tech, a lot of 3-tech at the next level, but those are pass rushing situations, sub packages where he can come inside and use some of the quickness he has at his size, which is kind of his biggest physical advantage. Because he's not a freak, but he does move really well for a guy that is kind of a tweener type of guy. So my comparison for him is Tyrone Crawford. And you're going to hear that name and be like, he's a fine player. Like, I don't get too excited about that. And that to me is EDGE Outside Linebacker. But Tyrone Crawford's carved out a really nice career for the Dallas Cowboys. He's played some D-tackle, he's played some defensive end, and he's been a really consistent player for them, both from run defense and pass rush. Now, he's had some injuries kind of plague him lately, but I kind of see that as EDGE Epenesa. A nice 10-year career, always a starter, best fit in a 4-3 scheme that Dallas, I'm pretty sure, has been for all of Tyrone Crawford's career there in Dallas. But early down's going to play that defensive end, 5-tech, really disciplined run defender. And to be honest, EDGE Epenesa is probably the most polished pass rusher in this class as far as a move set, like setting up tackles. He does a really good job of understanding, all right, if in the second quarter I fake to the outside and cut back inside, that tackle in the third quarter is going to be prepared for that. I can then get around the edge with that tackle, expecting me to come back inside. He's got some different things he does with his arms and his hands really well as well. So I do like Epenesa as a pass rusher. Really nice get off and quickness that's tough to handle in the interior as well. So I don't think he's just a run defender. I think he's going to be a 50 to 60 pressure defensive end hybrid player, which is a really good player and definitely worth a first round pick. Now, he's not this top 10 player anymore that maybe he was perceived heading into the year, but I do still like EDGE Outside. Now we got ThatFranchiseGuy out of LSU. He is a sophomore, a redshirt sophomore coming out, just very raw. The production was just very inconsistent. A lot of people very excited about him. I've seen him mocked in the top 10 of drafts now. I'm not quite on board that far. I worked every LSU game for PFF this year, and he's impressive. He made a lot of flash plays, but he would disappear a lot of times as well. And I think he just needs to get more consistency as a pass rusher. He has exceptional athleticism. He's done a great job to put on weight as well. I think he's still adding a power element to his game. I do kind of like the parallels to Danielle Hunter coming out of LSU. The difference is Danielle Hunter was just as explosive, but had much better length and kind of ability to separate himself, either using that length to separate off the edge, but also to get his hands inside as a power rusher as well. Chesson doesn't quite have that. He's probably a little closer to like Harold Landry, to be honest. My comparison for him is Robert Quinn, who's really, really good. I think he's been an all-pro edge rusher, but he's had his ups and downs, kind of a one-trick pony at times as that speed rusher. I think Chesson can play the run pretty well, but I don't know if he'll ever be great at that. I do like him. I do have a first-round grade on him. And his upside is second in this class. I just don't quite feel like super safe about him as a top 15 pick. And then Yetur Gross-Matos out of Penn State. Definitely impressive progression from an athleticism standpoint for him, because he's done a really good job to put on weight and add the power element to his game and the run defense element of his game. Now I need to see him continue with more of a finesse pass rushing game, because right now he just doesn't have much of a plan, isn't a very tactical, skillful rusher, which he has all of the upside to do. If there is a Danielle Hunter comp in this class, it's probably Yetur Gross-Matos, who has that length and explosiveness at a much larger size than K'Lavon Chesson. Now, I like him. I have a first round grade on him, but kind of similar to Chesson. I don't know if he's going to be this quality day one starter, but you put him in a good situation, a good scheme fit, and a good coach, and they can very well be potentially a number one pass rusher for you, but I really would not draft him expecting that in day one. Now we get past the first round, and this is when I really start to get less excited. After those top four guys, I see a dramatic drop-off, and to be honest, comparing these guys to other edge rushers in previous classes, they're probably not second-round players, but they have to get pushed up because of the lack of depth in this position. So I think if you go edge rush early, that's great, but after those top four, I don't get super thrilled. If it's a huge demanding need, I would take a couple of these guys in the second round, so let's talk about them. Terrell Lewis. It reminds me a lot of Carl Lawson coming out, not as a player necessarily, but because he's a guy that has injury red flags, but is a really, really productive pass rusher when he's on the field. Great get off, great bend. He has some finesse to his game. I think he's the second best finesse rusher as far as a skill set right now after EDGE Epenesa, which is not something you're going to hear out there. I think Epenesa is actually a really polished pass rusher. I think Lewis has a lot of that game plan and pass rush plan that they talk about, and he's got the explosiveness to match. He's got the length, the size. If Terrell Lewis, like, this is kind of a hot take, but if Terrell Lewis ended up being the most productive pass rusher out of this class, it wouldn't really surprise me, to be honest. He's got a lot of upside. I think he's a more skillful rusher than Chase Young. Like, I could see a world where Terrell Lewis becomes, like a Justin Houston type of pass rusher who has some really insane years, and Chase Young is just Jadeveon Clowney, who's, kind of the steady power rusher that it never wins on a super consistent basis. I wouldn't be stunned. I really wouldn't, but there's huge injury red flags. I don't think he's stayed healthy the last 3 years. But definitely an intriguing player worth a shot on day 2. Then we got Curtis Weaver out of Boise State. Between him and Cleveland, the left tackle here, these guys are really good athletes, but they just didn't play with the physicality I want to see. But this is an edge video, so let's talk about Curtis Weaver. He is an explosive guy. The one thing I will say to his benefit is he's 6'2", 265, which is very similar to DeMarcus Lawrence, where I want you to use that lack of height actually to an advantage to play with a lower pad level and be a dominant power rusher, especially at 265 pounds. The problem is he was used and played like Kentucky's Josh Allen as this hybrid 3-4 outside linebacker, dropped into coverage like a quarter of his snaps. When he did rush the passer, sometimes he was coming from 2 yards off the line of scrimmage, which is really hard to power rush from that position. And also, when he was playing more of a traditional edge, he didn't show the power I wanted to see. He played like a finesse rusher. Now, there was a couple reps where he showed some good bull rush, but I think you draft him knowing that he's probably not a starter day one. He needs to develop that power element to his game. I just don't think he's going to be this finesse speed rusher in a 3-4 scheme at the next level. He just doesn't project that way. I see him as a guy that should at least put his hand in the dirt and use that size to his advantage, because if he doesn't do that at the next level, if they're going to use him as a 3-4 outside linebacker, I just don't think he has that much upside at that. So I would actually draft him if I was a 4-3 team and teach him to play with his hand in the dirt and be more physical. And then my next player is kind of the opposite, Anthony Jennings. Talk about physical. This guy just knows how to ball. He's a 4-year starter at Alabama. Correct me if I'm wrong. Definitely 2 or 3, but I thought he was a potential first-round pick heading into this year. It's been kind of revealed that, he's a steady player. He's not an elite athlete, but I'm fine with that on day 2. I think he's a really good power rusher, a smart player, a good run defender. He's versatile too. He can play that 3-4 outside linebacker. My comparison for him is actually Dante Hightower, more like the modern day Dante Hightower, who I think, back in 2015 was a really good, more of a played a little more middle linebacker. Nowadays, the game has changed a little bit. He still does play middle, but his coverage has been exposed a little more with how offenses are attacking the middle of the field. But when Dante Hightower plays edge rusher, that's how I view Anthony Jennings. I don't see Jennings playing a lot of middle linebacker at the next level, but as an athlete and a power rush edge guy, I see him that way. And he does have good coverage instincts, and Alabama, Saban takes a lot of stuff from Bill Belichick, and he played that outside linebacker kind of hybrid role here at Alabama. And I really like him. I believe in him. I think he's going to be a quality starter in the NFL. So I do like him in the 2nd, 3rd round. You're just not drafting him expecting some elite sack getter or flashy player, but you do need to fill your roster out with guys like Anthony Jennings. Then Julian Okwara, absolutely nothing like his brother. Romeo Okwara for the Detroit Lions is an oversized defensive end. Okwara is an undersized edge rusher. He really, his best asset to me is his ability to drop into coverage and give you different looks. That's why I like him in a 3-4 or a 3-4 hybrid team. I recently mocked him to Detroit to play outside of his brother, Romeo, which would be a great little 1-2 punch, really complementing their skill set for a pair of brothers. But I like his game. He's got good athleticism. I just wasn't wowed by his ability as a pass rusher. He's got some good get-off, speed rush, finesse to his game. He's got some bend. Not overly physical as a run defender. I don't know. I just, as a senior coming out of Notre Dame, never really wowed me. But he's a good athlete, a good player, probably going to be a low-end starter. My comparison is Kyler Fackrell, who actually managed to put up a 9-sack season for the Green Bay Packers, and he offers some good coverage versatility as well. Then we got Bradley Anae out of Utah. I compared him to Brooks Reed, who's had a steady kind of rotational pass rush role in the NFL, a tenured career. A little bit of a do-it-all guy, but doesn't really excel at anything. That, to me, is Bradley Anae. Kind of a versatile guy as far as scheme fit goes. He's got good get-off. He actually has a good pass rush plan. He's very aggressive and Has a good mentality for a pass rusher. I just think the lack of physical traits is going to end up hurting him. But he's got a good get off, good bend. Like, I think he can survive as a starter, but he's probably a guy that you're going to be kind of constantly looking to upgrade at the position. And then Kenny Willikes, he's a guy that I think, he played a little bit of outside linebacker, a little bit of edge. I do think he should be playing with his hand in the dirt at the next level, but he's comfortable standing up as an outside linebacker as well, kind of Clay Matthews style. I compare him to Sam Hubbard for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's a really good run defender. He's physical and has good get off. He kind of wins at the point of attack early, but then he doesn't offer a whole lot after that. He's got some power rush to his game, good pursuit in run defense, smart player if you drop him into coverage, quality player. But I don't draft him again super excited. He's probably a third edge guy. I think really between Anai and Willikes, they could start and survive as starters and maybe get you 35, 40 pressures on a normal season, 6, 7 sacks. They're fine, but I would kind of constantly be looking to upgrade those positions. So those are the top 10 edge rushers in this class. If you want a look beyond the top 10, again, check out my Patreon. It's patreon.com/ThatFranchiseGuy. Please do hit that like button down below. Drop a comment down below if you think I shorted anyone here. That's going to do it. Cheers as always, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace out.